Hello, welcome to Oskaloosa Today. I'm Patrick Boberg. The Nelson Pioneer Farm is a historian's dream. From May to October, anyone who ventures out here can see what life was like from the early 1800s to the 1930s. To provide a quick look at what the Pioneer Farm has to offer, I met with curator Pam Howard. Enjoy. Oskaloosa is a town like many others in America. There's a town square, courthouse, and history. In some parts of town, that history is as clear as day. In others, it is completely unnoticed. But Oskaloosa has one thing many other communities lack: a historical society that archives everything they can get their hands on in one very unique location, the Nelson Pioneer Farm. All things Mahaska are held here: Indian artifacts, old tools and toys, photos of Mahaskans who have long since passed, and so much more. The Nelson Pioneer Farm is an educational institute that provides a glimpse of what life was like for Iowans in the 19th century. From May to October, anyone who is interested in how Mahaskans lived before electricity was prevalent is invited to take a tour of the farm. Nelson Pioneer Farm has been around for over half a century and currently houses over a dozen buildings and countless artifacts. The Mahaska County Historical Society has been given thousands of pieces throughout the years, but the real gem is the very first: an old worn-out chair.
John Bradbury had an old chair, that chair right there, and the cane seat on it became bad. Well, there was a gentleman named Aaron Maddox that lived out west of town. Mr. Bradbury took that chair out for him to recane it and saw that he had all these Indian artifacts, arrowheads, stone axes, grinding stones, and they decided it was, it was worth having it where people could see it. It was a shame for him to have all these neat Indian artifacts and not share them with the people. So they decided to open a historical society, and the courthouse gave them the third floor. So that's what started. It started from a chair and an Indian head, or an artifact, Indian artifact.
Pam Howard is the curator at the Nelson Pioneer Farm who takes care of the farm each day. She is also a walking almanac of Mahaska history. As far as Pam sees it, the Nelson Pioneer Farm and the Mahaska Historical Society are the proper home for all things of historical importance to Mahaska. The Pioneer Farm Museum is 3 floors of treasures: old maps, post office records, even old crafts made out of human hair. And while those small relics are interesting, the incredible pieces are the Nelson Pioneer Farm's most visible attractions.
Each individual building has a different story of where it came from, how it was built, why it was built, and how we acquired it.
Each building has lived through multiple uses over the course of history. The Buxton House at one time looked completely different. It even comes from a town that no longer exists.
Hopewell was a little community. That was their stagecoach stop. That was their general store, their post office, and their stagecoach stop. But when the old woman passed away, she wanted that taken off and brought out here because it was historically significant to the town of Hopewell.
While each building carries a special piece of Mahaska County history, the story of how each made it out to the Nelson Pioneer Farm is interesting in itself. Lifting the Buxton House and getting it halfway across the county required the cooperation of several organizations.
We had power lines that had to be moved, cable lines, MCG had to have moved their lines. There was a lot involved just to move the house, but you don't know that until you've got to measure everything. It was really remarkable. And the Buxton House was going to be destroyed if we didn't take it.
For most of the year, the Nelson Pioneer Farm stands as a monument to a way of life that is for the most part faded away. However, come September, the Nelson Pioneer Farm comes alive. For decades, people have come from far and wide to see how their ancestors lived on the Pioneer Farm's yearly revival.
The Pioneer Day's been going on since 1962. When they built this building, their first year was a crafts show, and it lasted for 3 days, and there was between 7,000 and 8,000 people here.
The Pioneer Days have changed greatly since the 1960s. Today, the event only lasts 1 day. and last year's 50th anniversary celebration only saw roughly 550 people attend, a steep drop from 8,000. Along with those changes, the crafts on display have dwindled considerably.
The spinning and the darning and the crocheting and knitting and tatting, and I'm sure there are a lot of art of crafts and things that are gone now that I don't even know. It was a big, big thing back in the 60s, big thing.
Pam has the perfect example of how this year's event has lost a once commonplace skill that people no longer use.
I usually have a woman out here on festival day who does darning. She can't come this year because she's ill. No one knows how to do darning. Darning has become a lost art because people don't do it anymore. Rather than fix that pair of socks, they'll throw them out.
While Pioneer Days no longer draws audiences like it used to, families still come. There may be no better way of showing children what things people take for granted these days. Clothes were made and not bought. Preparing a meal was an all-day event, and chances are you didn't get to spend your afternoons playing with your friends or video games. You were in the fields.
Most kids love it out here. They kind of, I don't know, they just like little sponges, and they just take in everything. The best part of this whole job is when the school tours come through, because the kids are just totally amazed by all of it, but they're just so wide open to learn.
Pioneer Days is a special day for adults as well. The festival is a chance for the community to try things they would never do on their own and feel a part of something outside of their normal routine.
There's a gentleman who has an old tractor, and they're going to bring it out and let him hook it up to the threshing machine. He's had this tractor for probably 50 years and it's never been hooked up to a threshing machine. So he's real excited about it, and his son is real excited about it. There's a rope maker that comes out, and the kids just love that because they actually make their own piece of rope. It might be like 6 or 9 foot long. But they stand there and they see how it's made, and they actually make it. And that's what it's about, you know, make this available to the public.
The Mahaska County Historical Society started in 1947 on the 3rd floor of the Mahaska County Courthouse. 11 years later, the Nelson family willed their 318-acre homestead to the Historical Society, including their house and barn. By 1962, the Historical Society built the Nelson Pioneer Farm Museum and has been in business ever since. Today, there are only 3 paid employees who operate the Pioneer Farm, and Pam Howard is the current curator.
Well, it would have been 2004. I had babysat for my children, or for my grandchildren, and they were getting ready to go to school and things like that, so I needed somewhere to go, and this job came open, and I came out and applied, and it was right, exactly what I wanted. So it's a wonderful job, it really is.
When you visit the Nelson Pioneer Farm, Pam will most likely take your admission fee and give you insight into the historical significance of different donations the farm has received. However, her duties extend far beyond that.
Coordinating workers, coordinating the care of the farm, what buildings need to be painted, bringing in artifacts, cleaning, rearranging. I can't name them all. So I wear a lot of hats every day.
For 51 years, the Nelson Pioneer Farm has been displaying pieces of Mahaska history, town history, farming history, even Native American history. If you are wondering how Oskaloosa got to where it is today, the Nelson Pioneer Farm is your first stop. As the years go by, Pam sees the farm expanding both its physical space and the time period of artifacts on display.
We're running out of room. We really do need another room. We try to find a space to put everything. There's a lot of books and things like that, newspaper articles and photographs that are in storage. But my idea of it is we keep artifacts from the early 1800s up to the 1930s. Being the Nelson Pioneer Farm, that is exactly what we need to do. We need to have those articles. Being the Mahaska County Historical Society, history was yesterday. So from 1940 till yesterday, we need to start keeping that stuff too for our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren, because that is their history. So we're going to eventually have to expand.
Just over 100 years of history is featured on the Nelson homestead, and each summer, people from all over venture to the Pioneer Farm to retrace their ancestors' steps. As the years roll by and the future turns into the past, who knows what current parts of Mahaska will be featured here one day. If Pam Howard is in charge of thousands of artifacts today, imagine what a curator may look after 100 years down the road. For more information on the Nelson Pioneer Farm, just go to www.criwmpennu.org and click on Oskaloosa Today. You'll find a link there as well as past episodes of this show. Once again, I'm Patrick Boberg. Thank you for watching.